start here in about a minute or so. We're going to give people time to get on. So glad that you guys can join us. As always, really appreciate you guys being here. And yeah, we're going to be diving into it. I'm going to be sharing my own personal testimony and status as far as this whole journey that I've been on, and you know, my wife as well, but I'm going to be talking more so about my own personal journey when it comes to leaving religion and leaving black culture. Yeah, so we're going to get into that. Let's give it about a minute or so, give people time to get on, and yeah, let's go ahead and get into this conversation. We're going to give people about another, let's do 40 seconds, another 40 seconds, and then we're going to get started. All right, I think we're just going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for tuning in to this broadcast, and I'm so glad that you guys are joining us today. Another beautiful day out here in Arizona. Temperature right now is 106 degrees. It's a little bit overcast, but you can still see the sun out there. And yeah, it's, you know, we've been having some warm days, but believe me, trust me when I say 106 is actually on the cooler end, because we've been up to 116, 118. And yeah, once you get to that level, it's just, you know, it's just whatever. You're just walking on the sun at that moment. And it doesn't matter. You want the northern side of the sun or the southern side of the sun. It don't even matter. They're all hot. And so, but yeah, very, very good. Otherwise, I went to, there was two places I went to, had something really good. Yeah. Well, out here we have Salad to Go, and I have to update what I said about Salad to Go. I read some things, and very recently, a lot of people have been coming out and saying, unfortunately, they just make salad, but people be getting sick over that, over salads. You know, they said that there's been some stuff going on with their recalls and stuff like that. I didn't know, but I've never gotten sick, but apparently a lot of people have been getting sick. So I don't eat the salads there, but the drinks that they have there, it's been quite a few places out here that have been dropping some like really good drinks, like fruit drinks, and that don't have any additives or anything like that in it. They're just fruit, you know, just, man, yeah, they dropped some good drinks today. I had a cherry lemonade, man. That thing made me kind of just, I went into convulsions. It was so good. And then yesterday I had some other stuff too, but yeah, that drink was good though. But anyways, yeah, it's good to see some of these restaurants out here coming out with some drinks, especially when you're living in a climate like this. You know, you always want to grab something that's cold and, you know, just hits the spot and all of that, and it's not that expensive. You know, that one, the drinks they have there, I'm talking about, you get fairly sizable. It's like it's under $2. Like it's like $1.80. It's like really, really cool. So anyway, so yeah, so if you ever if you're familiar with Salad to Go, you know, that's California, Arizona thing. They might be in another state, but I know out here we have a ton of them. Yeah, they just dropped a whole collection of drinks, man. everything's good. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. I'm just giving my little small talk, just giving people time to still getting in and all of that. Really appreciate it. I did record a video today for Somber Tree. Just getting into some stuff here. I didn't upload it yet because there's some edits I want to do. So be on the lookout for that, because we do upload content over there where we get more into the, talking about the health aspects of some of these things that we talk about here, So be on the lookout for that. That will be coming up soon, and good to see everybody as you all coming in here. So today we're going to talk about, I'm actually going to share my own personal experience in leaving the matrix. You hear this a lot. A lot of people talk about this as far as like leaving the matrix system. Ooh, what is the matrix system and all of that? I'll provide some definition for that for our conversation. And what I'm talking about, it can mean a lot of things for a lot of different people, but I could tell you what it means for me, and I'll get into that. So that's what we're going to get into in my own personal experience and some of the things that I have personally encountered and had to deal with and still dealing with and all of that. And I'm gonna tell you right now, it hasn't been easy, but yeah, there are, so we'll talk about the negative side of it, of course, but we're also going to talk about the positives on it, what's on the other side of that. And, I want to show you this image that I posted. Did I post it? I'm trying to see if I have it would have been downloaded, uploaded. Where did I put that? Let me see if I can pull, instead of me going, it's on my own community page, but I do want to show it to you here. That would be under, here it is right here. Here it is right here. This image right here. Okay, so I posted this image because I wanted to kind of people to visualize, just the kind of stuff that's out here and been out here. And I'm going to post something else here as well in a moment, that kind of underscores this image here. Now, when I made this image, I had one individual was like, well, hey, now that you're not in with one of us or whatever, would you just making fun of us? I was like, not really. I mean, that, you can laugh or not. I don't care. But this image actually portrays what I typically encounter and deal with on a daily basis, especially like on social media, where you have individuals who embrace multiple identities and while at the same time talk about, saying that they're standing on business. But this is normal for them. They think this is a normal thing to embrace multiple personalities or multiple origin stories or identities. When you encounter somebody like in my time, in my day, in early part of my life, that was considered a syndrome. It was considered a mental condition. And now in today's world, we've normalized this and said this is normal. So in this case here, it's, you got this individual who's a Moor, but also identifies as a Native American, who also identifies as a Christian, but also a Hebrew Israelite that also agrees with a lot of what's in the Quran. And yes, I am aware that that's not the official way of spelling it, but there's a reason why I did that. But anyway, and this guy, he calls himself Yaz Blackfeather Shabazz Bey Grandma. And so I encounter people just like this. They may not walk around with all of this stuff that you see here, but this is normal. This is a normal way that numbers of people in what we call the Black community will identify themselves as, if not all of it, at least some of it. And this is one example here, but I do want to show you this other thing. This is someone that I found on Twitter that was trying to have a conversation, and just, I don't know what happened to them, but let me get this up here on the screen for you. And I'm having this conversation with this individual, and I said, well, let me look at their bio, or what, their main page, and just see who this person is. And so, and what they say, who they say they are, just get an idea. And it's coming up here. I'm just waiting for it to come up. And let me just bring that up on the screen as well. And here it is. It's right here. All right, so I'll put this right here. So here you go, right here. So this is, I didn't make this up. I scratched their identity out because, you know, what's the point? But I want you to see, okay, so you see the headline there, the image. I don't know who that's supposed to be, but whatever. Deuteronomy 33 to 13, hashtag Bobby Hemmett, my spiritual advisor. Then they got the little hand thing, and they got 40 bars better than all you, you know, and then it says Jesus. No, let me read that. 40 bars better than all you bitches. Hashtag Jesus always provides. Ninja. I think that's that whole native, you know, I'm a Native American stuff. Turtle Island. That's when you see the turtle, that's Turtle Island. And, you know, hashtag Black Pride. And then Beyonce is king or queen or whatever, and then Jesus walks. So this was a person that I was encountering on Twitter that was trying to have some type of conversation, but literally, as you see all of this stuff all blended together, this is how the conversation pretty much went. And so of course I couldn't stick around but too long because you all over the place. But again, if you think that I'm just kind of pulling the most craziest of examples that's out here, and the worst of examples, if you think I'm just doing that, then think again, because that's not what's happening. This is become more and more and more something that is normalized in what we call Black culture. And I'm going to keep talking about this. I'm going to say exposing it. I'm not really exposing anything because this kind of stuff is getting exposed on its own. But I guess what I do here is I want to show it. I want to talk about it. And then I want to talk about what are some of the solutions that we can do to get around this stuff. That's pretty much it. But I'm not going to just show you things just to be showing it to you. There's literally no entertainment value for me in showing these things. It's just to kind of put in your face, hey, listen, this is real. This is now, you know? So many of you have heard the channel Pink Book Lessons, and she does a very good job in talking about such matters here. And so I want to switch to the browser and show you just a couple of things that happened recently. Now, many of you have heard, you know, that that there were some people, again, this imaginative online cult. FBA said that we're gonna stand on business, and we're going to draw the line. And for the month of August, you know, we're gonna all not patronize shops that are owned by Africans. You know, we're not going to do that at all. You know, we're just going to hold our dollar and all that. And we just going to stand on business and all that, all because of some trolls that are on social media and have been saying some things. And so now we're going to hold our dollar, and all Black Americans are going to stand up, and we're not going to support these businesses at all. Okay. Well, in the same week, and we weren't even in August yet, let me just show you some of the examples of what was really happening on Main Street. And like I said, and to do that, we're just going to switch over to Pink Book Lessons here, and let's go. So this is at Sheen. Oh, I know. I think it's like women clothing kind of stuff here. Let's just play it, and I'm going to show you. This is all leading up to our main conversation, what we're going to be talking about here. So let's just go and get into it. Okay, so let me play this video. And just so you know, this is not a Black-owned business. Okay, this is definitely not a Black-owned business. I'm just letting you know. And this is in Atlanta.
This is why I hate Atlanta, bro. Like, y'all can't take serious. Like, y'all can't take serious. Every single thing, y'all have to turn it into a club event. Everything. Just can't even go out to eat for brunch, for lunch, for breakfast without y'all serving hookah, blasting music, and doing hella Now they done had a Sheen pop-up shop, and these niggas done turned it into a club. Like, can we just shop in peace? Like, damn, do y'all have to turn everything into a party? Like, everything that Atlanta touched. Everything. Like, some people might like silence or peace when they shop. Y'all in there doing hella Like, good Lord.
Shein hit Atlanta with a pop-up event at Perimeter Mall. Running from Thursday through the weekend, they pushed deals on clothes. I even heard somebody mention $34 wigs. Not sure how true that is, but whatever they're selling, it worked. Because they had tons of black women in Atlanta come out for some Shein deals. They clearly studied black American culture because they knew exactly how to make it pop. They even opened the store swag surfing. You can't get more ATL than that. I don't think they turned the store into Magic City. Maybe it was getting closer to the compound or something. But despite the hype, a lot of people were not feeling those long lines. And by the time they got in and went through the store, they said never again.
No, ma'am, we're not. No. Nobody got jobs?
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
And there I was in the parking lot at Perimeter Mall with my little Shein outfit thinking I was going to land a brand deal until I saw this. And then I immediately said, no, absolutely not. And left.
Okay, I'll stop there and then let's move on. So that was in Atlanta. This is, let me go here. Of course, many of you already know this was in Houston. I'm not, again, I'm just showing you some excerpts of things. This all happened within 2 weeks, y'all. Within 2 weeks, this is all of this I'm showing you is what happened.
Crack of dawn to this North Houston Hair Galleria Beauty Supply grand opening. And it was a big mistake. It was a chop, y'all. Okay, I'm going to get right into it. But this was 5 a.m. Please keep that in mind. 5 a.m. I'm walking in with my little chair, thinking, I think I'm a little bit too early. I'm just going to be right in front. Boy, oh boy, was I wrong. Okay? Now, they said they were giving the first 200 customers 3 bundles of human hair. Look at the line. Okay? The line went all the way around into the daiquiri to-go shop. Oh, my goodness. This line was so long. Okay, so I was like, okay, you know what? We're not the first 100. I'm just going to sit down. We're not the first 200. Let me just sit myself down. At least they have good deals elsewhere. That's when the madhouse started. I Am Jonathan showed up and started throwing wigs. It became a frenzy. Okay? I was like, okay, he's throwing wigs. Great. The line will move up, right? Wrong. We were still out there. This was around... 9 a.m.? Okay, this was around 9 a.m. I'm not going into the crowd so someone can elbow me in the face for a wig. No, I was like, you know what? Let me just pay for the free deals that we get. We were still in line, y'all. People started getting rowdy. Some lady wanted to fight me. Look at me, I was just hot. Thank God I had this little fan in my car. Okay?
Close completely down.
Okay.
For the day. Completely down. The store is going to close down.
All right, y'all, you heard the sheriff. That's when my mom and I were like, we're out of here. It's getting rowdy. There were about 3 ambulances. The sheriff's office was there. My good, it was so rowdy and bad. And this could have been easily fixed by just giving everybody tickets when they showed up. But they didn't care. They were waving at people from the roof of the building. This was a chop. Oh, my gosh.
Okay, so that's in Houston. Then you had Alabama. Now, I just heard about this yesterday. Yesterday, all right?
Police had to be called in to keep in line customers in line for a big grand opening giveaway.
As WKRG News 5's Clancy Callahan shows us, the store owners were caught off guard by the huge crowd of customers who showed up.
Like, the folks, they've been tripping out here at 10 o'clock last night.
Hundreds of people lined up to be the first inside a new hair store in Mobile on Dolphin Street when things got a little hairy.
They're fighting, people skipping lines, all that stuff.
They were just pushing this up and they want to get their hair done. All to get a hold of some free hair products.
Yeah, they giving out free 200 bundles, human hair bundles.
This is so embarrassing. She said they're giving out free bundles, 200 human hair bundles. So that's what lured all these women down to the brand new hair store. A crowd reported at 10 p.m. the night before. They stayed throughout the wee hours. Until the store opened up the next morning, camped out for what? All because the store owner advertised free bundles, 200 human hair bundles. And no, this is not Houston, Texas. I told y'all before, it wasn't just a Houston, Texas thing. These Boondocks characters are everywhere. This right here is Mobile, Alabama.
It was a bigger crowd than even the store owner was expecting.
I was surprised a little bit, but you know, it is what it is.
And look at Abdullah Ahmad Khaled. He's like, I didn't know it would be like this. Stop lying, Fahid. You knew exactly what would happen when you told them you're giving out 200 human hair bundles. They're out here making Saif and his whole family rich off this Indian sewer hair.
But we got the officers down here. They helped us out. Everybody calmed down, and everything's all right.
MPD officers were outside the store ensuring everyone's safety.
They were just here to make sure that officer presence was observed. People were able to see the officers. They think twice before they try to do anything silly. And as you can see, we still have officers manning the door, and only 2 people are able to enter in and out at one time.
They had to get the Mobile Police Department down there to man the lines in the door. At some point, they limited the customers down to only 2 people at a time inside the store. Again, though, this is poor planning on Assad too, because he knew what type of Boondocks moment he was creating, advertising 200 free bundles of Indian sewer hair. He should have had the police on deck from the beginning.
And yeah, so she goes on with that. She's right. She's right. So that was in Alabama. I meant to mention to you the update for the Houston store. The Houston store, they're closed for 8 weeks now. They completely got shut down because of just the madness. And I guess there was some other things going on, and the city basically shut them down for 8 weeks. So I'm just, minding my business or whatever. I was doing something, and I happened to jump on TikTok, and I came across another one, this time in Georgia. This was in Georgia. I have to turn the volume down off of this one because, they got some music playing. So I hope I don't get caught with that music on that first video. But this is in, I think, Madonna. I think this is in Madonna, Georgia. I'm not sure, but this is in Georgia.
The J's do the jump, man, came in. You got to know this the remix right here. Grand hustle, baby, it's the Kings right here. You got.
So there you go. Like I said, I had to turn the music off on that one because it had some music playing, copyrighted music on there. But anyway, what I'm showing you, and the reason why what I'm showing you is this is just a snapshot of what is included. Let me be clear. Listen to what I'm saying. What is included? Now I got to say that again for the slow people in the back. What is included in what we call today Black culture? And it's not only included, it's characteristics that are oftentimes excused and many times protected by many of the members within the culture. And so when I see this kind of stuff, yes, I understand that what we just saw isn't the representation of all Black folks. Notice I'm talking Black people in general, not just Black women, but you also have Black men. There are Black men that do some of the most dumbest of things. Then I would show it to you, but I've done it in the past. But again, YouTube, has different standards than TikTok, than X does, because when it comes to fight videos and all of that, they don't tolerate that on YouTube. But there is literally an entire, I could spend just the amount of videos that I have just acquired just in the last 2 days of individuals, I'm talking Black folks now, fighting over the most simplest of things, just going off on some of the most simplest of things. And this is something that is included. Again, it's included, considered part of black culture. I'm just going through some things right now. I'm not going to show you, but I'll just tell you. For example, they had a back to school event in Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, guess what happened? There was a shooting. There was a shooting that took place there. Recently, there was at Carnival Cruise. You know, Carnival Cruise, they did their thing. They said, listen, we can't tolerate this kind of behavior in here anymore. We got to raise the standard, and we got to just draw the line and say enough is enough. But yet people still manage to get on there. And I got a video here I got right now. Like I said, again, I'm not going to show it, but this is in Long Beach, the port in Long Beach, as people, I guess they were getting off of the ship, black folks fighting each other. And then this one right here, this one I might want to show you. Now, this is an older woman. This is an older black woman. Yes, there's going to be some strong language on this one. But again, I'm showing you all of this to make a point, a much larger point that I'm about to get into. This is I don't know if any of you guys seen this, but this is, I think this is significant to show because because you get to see that it ain't just, we're going to blame the young people on this one. You got older people too that's the part that's really bothers me, is that you got older people who are carrying on as well. But in this, just real quick, what's happening, you got this young man that's in the back. He's in the electronics section. He's doing whatever he's doing. And whatever he's doing, it's certainly not worth this kind of clapback. Take a listen. Again, there's strong language on this one. And just watch.
Take that nasty ass vest off.
Man, I don't care. It's work.
Fuck ass nigga.
I don't care. It's work.
Take that vest off, use some Tide and wash that motherfucker. You nasty nigga.
Wipe around your mouth.
You nasty nigga. You wipe it. Make me. Make me. Yeah. Cause I put my finger and my pictures in your face. Bitch ass boy. Now I'm finished. Yeah. Make me go. I don't want nobody to do nothing to me, baby. Your mama gonna be crying about you. You pill back. Bitch, nigga, my mama dead.
I said Joe Fogle.
The fuck you mean?
I ain't said nothing about your mama.
Don't you never in your life. Now what you gonna do about that? Yeah, do something with your bad ass. That's what I thought. Give me my pictures. Okay, well, call the manager then. Call the manager then. Yeah. You telling him he ain't working. My mama just died February talking about your mama. I don't play no games where I'm from. You don't play mama games.
Your folks gonna be crying.
No, they ain't gonna be crying, nigga. You gonna be crying because you don't even know who the fuck I am.
Okay, so you get the point there. And I know that for some people, again, seeing this is uncomfortable. I totally get it. But it happens every day. This happens every day. Not only that, it's celebrated every day. It's presented as if this is who I am and this is who we all gonna be, and that's it. This happens every day. And you don't need, there's no CIA drones that are flying around and catching people at their worst. No, the very people who are doing this stuff are uploading it themselves to the whole world. I mean, if I'm at my worst, if I'm having a bad day, you're not going to see me pull out a camera, film myself, and upload it, because you're going to catch me. You know, I might be angry or whatever, which literally it ain't, my life ain't really like that at all. I mean, when I get angry, trust me, it's very uneventful. I'm probably one of the most uneventful people in my private life. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to get more into that. But it ain't nothing going on. But you understand what I'm saying. Okay, let me word it another way. If I'm going to go on the toilet, I'm not going to bring my camera in with you and, oh, check it out. Y'all want to hear something? You want to hear something? You want to smell something? I'm not bringing you into that. But there's this mindset that's in the culture where I don't care. I'm going to show you at my worst. and I'm going to upload it to the whole world. This is what I'm talking about. So there was a time, now we're getting into the meat of this video, this broadcasting. I talked about in that post I did, I did 2 posts now where we were talking about this whole thing about how you have individuals out here who like to make fun of people who come to this country, black folks who come to this country either from Africa or the Caribbean or whatever, telling them, ha, 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 you fled your country, you're fleeing your country, and yeah, you scared of your own people. Why don't you go back and rebuild? And so in the post, I did 2. I did 2 videos and I did a video. I explained that there is a phenomenon called black flight, all right? And very quickly, I'll just go through it again. Black flight is a very real trend. Anybody that's my age or older, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is not strange. This is not something I'm pulling up out of my behind. This is 1,000% very true and very well documented. It's referred to as black flight. This is something we saw all the way back, trickles of it. It's going back into the 50s, the 60s, and then once we hit the 70s, that thing began to take off. What am I talking about? This is exclusively black Americans where we lived in our own communities and we had to live there because these external areas, these outer areas, a lot of times they didn't want us being out there. So we had to stay in our own communities, right? And these were places where you had a mixture. You had people who were about, creating a wonderful, beautiful space, right? And really taking pride in what we had and all of that. But then you also had ninjas. You know what I mean when I say ninjas. You also had ninjas who were all about the destruction. They were all about tearing things down. They were all about making things unsafe for our families, our children, our women, and all of that. You have people in there. And listen, that's in any culture. You're going to find that. It's not just black culture, it's any culture. And so anyway, fast forward, you hit the 70s, it really started taking off because out in the suburbs, they started dismantling a lot of these unspoken rules and all of that, that would dissuade black people from living there. Case in point, in my own family experience, when we moved from Philadelphia to New Jersey, there was a street, I could walk you to it right now, North Garden Boulevard. This was a street it was all white. When they would sell their homes, and this is according to my mom, anytime they made an agreement on the street that when they sell their homes, they're going to make sure that they do not advertise it publicly. They're just going to be a whisper campaign. You just let other white people know that, hey, listen, we're going to sell our home to another white person and all of that. That's what they did, right? And this is in my lifetime, okay? This is in my lifetime. And what I experienced in Philadelphia, I remember this. In Philadelphia, particularly in North Philadelphia, it was majority black American. We didn't have the Caribbeans. We didn't have Africans. There was some that you saw, but it wasn't, North Philly in those days, that was all black folks. Okay. That was all black people. Okay. And then over time, unfortunately, the ninjas kind of began to start outnumbering those that was really trying to make a positive difference. Not only that, you had black folks, positive black folks that were positive and negative, that were getting into politics. So these were spaces that we controlled. We controlled this. This wasn't, you can't blame anybody else. You can't blame anybody else. It was us. And so black folks after a while said, you know what, we're done. You had some black people say, you know what, I've tried. You had black folks who had businesses and all that. I'm done. I'm out of here. So in other words, what happened? Black folks fled the places that were traditionally their places. So this is what I've been sharing on the community page. And folks trying to argue and say, well, no, see, that's different. There's a different type of fleeing and all that. And I'm like, no, how do you look at the definition of fleeing? You're escaping a place that you perceive to be dangerous. So I'm telling you stuff that I know firsthand because I lived it. And so all over the country here in the United States, someone shared about Inglewood earlier. They left a comment about Inglewood. Inglewood used to be a majority black town as well. Guess what happened? A lot of black folks start moving where? They started moving Inland Empire. They start going out and away. They start going out to Lancaster. I know because I lived out there too. I live in Southern California too. I know about these things. And so anyway, so where were they going? A lot of these black Americans were going out to the suburbs because, yeah, the schools were better and, you know, it was cleaner and all this other stuff, right? But these are white people that was out here. Now, a lot of times we hear, well, the schools were better because, see, the government is taking away precious resources from the inner city and they're moving it out there. But then when you start drilling down as to why, you start listening to the black teachers will tell you, well, the reason why the schools are the way they are is because the parents ain't showing up. The parents don't want to show up. But you also had black parents who did show up, who were trying to keep up some positivity, but they were being outnumbered. So after a while, black folks were saying, you know, you had a group of black people was like, I'm done. Let me go out here. I also remember the amount of whatever you want to call it, that clapback that black Americans who didn't make that move, they were the ones that were out here saying, why are you leaving us behind? Why are you leaving us behind? Who you think you are? You going out there with them white people? Why you think, once you come back here and make a difference, once you come up back here and build something and all of that. And then fast forward into, what was this, the 90s when Magic Johnson did Magic Johnson Theaters? Magic Johnson, he said, okay, I'm going to take y'all up on that task. And I remember black folks getting out loud and proud. See, this is what I'm talking about. He got Magic Johnson. He ain't forget where he came from. He's building these theaters. He's building stuff. He's trying to build infrastructure. He's trying to build up the community. He did that. Magic Johnson, it took him a few years to realize, nah, hell no, let me get up out of here. All his theaters shut down. All of them shut down. I saw the rise and the fall of that. I witnessed this. You understand what I'm saying? So there's a cult within what we call black culture. There is a self-destructive element, period. And so once I began to realize that, I had to cut away this mindset that I had about, you know, I'm rooting for everything black mindset, because I'm not doing it. I'm not rooting for everything black. I'm not. Now, I'm not disconnecting myself from who I am. And when it comes to my history and all of that, I love my history. I talk about history all the time, always talking about it, and I'm always defending it. And the main ones I'm defending it from are other Negroes that don't want to acknowledge it because they're too busy reinventing new stories. Talking about we invented space and we invented this and that and we created everything and everybody, we're the blueprint and all this other stuff. And then when you start kind of breaking down, like, well, wait a minute, you pump the brakes a little bit. Let's look at what really happened. Okay, let's be truthful here. Now, you know, we did some positive things. Let's amplify the positive, but let's not go there and start making things up. Okay, and then once you start doing that, oh, you a hater then. Oh, you one of them coons. Ever since after a while, I've been listening to you. You sound like you just getting a little bit coonish. Well, what exactly do you mean by that? And when I ask people that, they disappear. They go away. When I turn the microphone on, when I turn the phone on and say, call me, let's talk about it. Nobody wants to call in. Nobody. So anyway, so all of this I'm saying here in my expression, please don't interpret my expression as me being angry. I'm not angry. I'm just being very expressive. So yeah, I'm really not angry. Okay. This ain't being angry, but if anything, it's frustration. So when I see these things, when I begin to see these things, and I begin to realize that there's this real tug of war thing going on here. Do I want to continue to associate myself with this? Or do I want to begin to start drawing some real lines and say, no, enough is enough. I can't do this anymore. I can't pretend that this stuff doesn't exist. I got to start calling this out. So I chose to do that, and I'm still doing that. And when you take that step and begin to call out the very culture that at one point it had a lot of pride in itself, a lot of dignity. One of the things I mentioned in that post, I talked about how, and some of you can vouch for that, maybe for those of you maybe who grew up in Baltimore. I can't speak for Baltimore, but DC, or, this was in a lot of black communities at one time. But let me speak for someone who born and raised partially raised in Philadelphia. There was such great pride in our streets. Used to have block captains. I can remember going on down the street, and these are row homes, and the older people, for whatever reason, they said, we're gonna make it nice. We may not have the land that we used to have, but we're gonna get some fake grass from somewhere. I could still see today going to my aunt's house, and the front porch, they would get that fake green grass and they would put it on the whole front porch, and then they would have like the cover, the rain cover. They were nice rain cover they would put over the porch, and they would have like porch furniture out there. And I remember going there like, you want to sit out here, baby, or you want to go inside or whatever. And then you go inside, the running joke for people my age is remembering when, your aunties and your uncles and all that, they used to cover the furniture with plastic and all that kind of stuff. And, I remember all that stuff because they took great pride in the stuff that they covered. We make fun of that, but you go to your auntie, if they're still around, I guarantee you that furniture is still around, ain't it? Because they knew, hey, I preserved this, man. This is of value to me. This is of value. I'm investing in some good stuff. And so I remember when they would have different blocks would have competition. Who can have the best and cleanest, safest blocks? They used to do this in places like Philadelphia all the time. But what happened to those people? Those people left. And we'll get into later on when they left. I wish I can. Anyway, I'm not going to. I could go further in that. What I want to say, what happened since then, that is reserved for another video. How about that? I'll just do that. So when you're calling this stuff out, a lot of times people will hear it and they'll hear other people like myself calling this stuff out and automatically interpret it as you must hate black people. Now, in the video that I did for Somber Tree, I talked about a phenomena. I'm going to see if I can find it here. There is a phenomenon that happens when, I'm just going to say part of your brain, when your part of your brain is not optimized. I'll just say that. Okay. What happens is this. Let me try to find it right now. Let's see. It is called splitting. That's what it's called. It's called splitting. And basically splitting happens when you are a person that has dealt with any level of trauma. And when I say trauma, I'm not talking slavery, y'all. I'm talking about trauma in your home. Trauma of a parent that wasn't there, trauma where there was abuse that took place. There are a lot of people that are still to this day carrying trauma. And I spent a great deal of time talking about that in this video that I'm going to upload. But we could spend days talking about the impacts of trauma, because a lot of times when you hear trauma and black people on the same conversation, we usually associate it with slavery. Now, did slavery play a part in that? Yeah, it did. And I would argue that we still see traces of that today. But I would also argue and say that it's not really that today. Most of it is internal. Most of it is internal, in-house stuff that is being self-generated and self-produced today. Things that we're normalizing. I did a video where I talked about what happens to a woman's body when we're dealing with the topic of stress, how you just mass produce cortisol, which then begins to start producing massive amount of fat cells that will build up all around here in your stomach area, all around here, but it also builds up on your behind area. And so a lot of people will look at the behind and be like, man, that girl got a big old behind and all that. She look good and all that. But we're glamorizing, but really what it comes down to, we're glamorizing stress, trauma. And so there's some of you right now that are listening to me and you have been trained that we built different. We are built different as black folks. We are built different. And I'm trying to hold myself together right now because this is really, it's sad and it makes you angry at the same time. This misconception. We tell ourselves this, that we're built different and we could take all this stuff, but you can say that, right? But your body will never lie to you. Your body will never lie to you because your body, when it's dealing with trauma, when it's carrying stress, your body is going to show all kinds of signs, hollering and screaming at you and telling you, okay, maybe you got a little bit of extra where you can carry a bit more weight, but I'm trying to tell you, this ain't it. This ain't how we supposed to be living, bruh. This ain't how we supposed to be living, sis. And so we have built this ability to take the trauma that a lot of times we've been carrying for years and years and years and pushing it down and saying, no, come on, I'm built for this. And what happened is you get high blood pressure, then you get diabetes, then you start dealing with hair loss. A lot of times we talk about hair loss and we tie it to, when we're talking about women, for example, we tie it to, well, that's why, because y'all wearing all these wigs. That may be part of it, but it's also stress. I also talk about dental, your dental care, your teeth. You know, stress is a direct tie to that, like trauma. Trauma, same thing. There's many of you who've been carrying trauma for years, things that happened to you as a child, things that happened to you in your marriage. You still carrying that stuff around. But then you go to social media, you post, you vent off, tell people, yeah, you know what? That's all right. I'm better than this. I'm better than this. I'm built different. I could carry this. I could hold this. Meanwhile, you dealing with your hair falling out, your teeth getting rotten out, and you're getting bigger. And I'm saying this for both men and women. And then you wonder why I can't see like I used to see anymore. All of that is dealt with trauma and stress. And so everything I just described to you are things that are all, come on, baby. I know you're dealing with, this is what we call black culture. It's like, come on, it's all right. Get in these bosoms. It's okay. Get in these bosoms. It's okay. It's okay. We're going to go through this. We're going to do this. We're going to carry this. You know what? Not just carry it. We're going to wear it with pride. No. So, you know, this whole trend where we talk about black culture is exhausting. You know, this trend that people, it is, let me tell you, it is exhausting. It is exhausting. And once I began to honestly look at that and see it for what it was, I had to say, you know what? Enough. There's certain things I'm going to have to disconnect myself from. There's one individual come to mind right now. They had to make a conscious decision, even when it came down to their family. They said, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm not going to stay in this cycle. I have given and given and given to this family for years. I've tried to help. I tried to be a friend. I tried to be there trying to help people out and trying to assist them and trying to walk them through stuff over and over again. I'm tired of being trampled over and talked down to and being taken advantage of. I'm tired of that. Enough is enough. I love you, but I'm going to love you from a great distance. Oh, you calling me? Oh, too bad. I'm not going to answer today. Why? Because I don't feel like it right now. I'm living in a peaceful state right now, and that's where I want to keep it. So when you leave this matrix system, one of the things you're going to notice is that you're going to have to start cutting people away, real people. You're going to have to recognize that this culture is a place, reality on one side, it's a culture that where we got our identity. It was a place of comfort. It was a place where we would laugh, we would cry, we would share jokes. And, you know, it's a culture where we learn foods and all this other stuff. At its core, it's a beautiful culture. At its core, it's a very beautiful culture. But what has happened over the years is that it has snowballed into something that will kill you if you continue to dwell in it. And so this is where we are right now. And so at a certain point, you got to draw the line and say, enough is enough. So that's black culture there. Let me see here. And so then on the other side, Then you got religion. Religion is the other side of this whole thing with the matrix. And this is, again, I'm speaking from my own personal experience, okay? You know, when we were growing up in the church, we had friends, we had, a support system and all of that. And this is going back all the way when I was a child, okay? I had friends, a support system and all that. Everything was fine and dandy as long as you're in the church. As long as you're paying your tithes, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do in the church, you always going to have people that you're going to have a support system where everything is going to be okay for the most part. As long as you attending Sunday service, in my case, it was Sunday service, Sunday night service, and Wednesday night service. As long as you're doing the basics, as long as you're paying your tithes, you're going to always have a support system. But the moment you begin to start asking questions, the moment your prefrontal cortex begins to kick in and you begin to realize, hold on for a second, wait a minute. Now, I know what you're preaching here, but I'm now starting to see some things. Now, all of a sudden, this stuff ain't falling right. I'm starting to notice some things here. I'm starting to notice some inconsistencies. I'm really paying attention now to this Bible here that you're saying here, because now on one hand, the Bible is saying this, but I'm looking right now, nobody's following this stuff. Your Bible's telling me that people are going to be healed and we're going to have the ability to heal other people. I ain't seeing that. Why is that happening? Why are we stuck with a building fund for a building that we're going to only use once a week? And most of us up in here, we trying to catch up on rent. Why are we doing this stuff, Pastor? And then and it's like, well, all of a sudden now they, wait a minute now, what are you doing now? See, you got the devil in you. That's Satan speaking through you. The devil is coming after, is speaking to the may the Lord rebuke you in the name of Jesus for they're even asking questions. Translation, may the Lord, no. Let me break it down further. May Baal rebuke you, because that's what Lord means, Baal. May Baal rebuke you for using your brain. That's what they tell you. And so what happens is, once you begin to start asking enough questions and you start seeing the BS, then the next thing is, you know what? I'm out of here. I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. But there is a significant percentage of people who see the mess. You see it. You see it. I know this person on a personal level. There were people that I knew saw the BS that was going on in the churches, saw the BS that was being preached, but they were too afraid to stand up, to say something and say, no, something about this ain't adding up. Nobody here is explaining why this young man died in a hospital, believing everything in this book, but yet he still died. Nobody's giving me a sound explanation. The only explanation you're giving me is telling me that, well, the Lord, he just needed another basketball player in heaven. That's your explanation. Or when a dear sister dies, you say, well, the Lord, he just needed another choir director in heaven. This is the explanation. But no, I'm going through this. Okay, now let me go through the history. Let me start dealing with the history. Let me start going through this. Wait a minute. Now, this stuff ain't adding up, because historically, this ain't adding up here. Now, the Bible says out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. Okay, I'm looking for the other witnesses here, and the other witnesses, they're not lining up with what this book says. And so you start asking those questions. And then, then after that, what do you start doing? There are people, and the thing that really gets me is that I could say all of this, everything I'm saying right now, and there's people like, yeah, you're right. Bruh, in the next video, they'll be repeating the same stuff. All praise to the Most High. I'm telling you, that's just a side item. I don't get it. It's like whatever you say, it just in and out. I don't understand that, but it happens. But anyway, so for us, my wife and I, when we started this channel, which was, I don't know, 12 years ago, I don't know. I don't even know. It was a while back. We started this channel initially. It was when we were in Christendom, and we were talking about some of the things that we were noticing. We were like, wait a minute, this ain't adding right, man. It's like we're on this circle, right? And so we started confronting and talking about some of these things that we were noticing. And then we got into the Hebrew thing because, you know, again, once we start hearing that message, it really began to resonate with us when we start listening to the whole Hebrew message and, you know, who we really were and all of that stuff. And it really resonated. It did. It resonated with us. And, you know, it was very exciting, and we started, you know, really getting into it. And that's who we were when we were doing our videos. It was around that. It was within that world. And then as we continued to go on, I began to start noticing the same BS that I thought I left in the church. And see, many of you notice this, but you're too afraid to say anything about it. I started noticing the same exact stuff that was going on. And I started calling that out. I started pointing that out. I was like, wait a minute, this ain't adding up here. This ain't adding up. And so as I begin to call this stuff out, and of course, naturally, you're going to get the clap back and all that stuff, and we still do. And people, again, that you thought, okay, we're going to be riding with this. We're going to be all going to the promised land. Well, I guess I ain't going to make it into the promised land. I guess I ain't going to be there. I guess my invite has been revoked. Because again, I started asking questions. And once you begin to start asking questions, you're going to begin to notice some things. And I wrote some things down here. Here's some of the things that I began to experience on a personal level. And that's, so we're talking, so I spent a great deal of time talking about Black culture and also talking about religion and all that. And there's a lot more I could say about both. But I wanted to lay all of that out for you. As I began to leave, it felt like this. This is probably the best way I can describe it to you. It felt like I was leaving a building. I didn't know what it was. It was just I was leaving a building. And as I was leaving this building, you go out into the courtyard, and then you go past the gate. Then once you go past the gate, you know, the gate is held by these two big pillars. You look on the sign, and guess what the sign says? It says insane asylum. It says asylum on it. Because I began to realize that what I just left was just that. It was an insane asylum. Last night, I should say. It's a funny story behind this, but there was a movie, you know, I had a list of movies I wanted to watch, and one of them was Shutter Island. I don't know if you've ever seen that. If you like Alfred Hitchcock, you would probably like that movie. They did a Scorsese, I think did that. I thought it was a really, if you like those mind-bending movies and all that, that's right up Alfred. It's Hitchcock all the way. And but the movie, the premise of it is basically it's an insane asylum, and you know, I don't want to give too much away, but if you haven't seen it, but basically, in short, you have people who live there who don't even realize that they're where they are. They believe they're in their own world. I'll give you an example of this one lady, and I think this will probably be the best way of me telling you without telling you the whole movie. Basically, there's this one lady that lived in this asylum who they said the way they treat her, they have to treat her as if she's living in a real house. So when we talk to her, we're talking to her like she's at home. And we allow her to refer to us as the mailman, the milkman, the newspaper boy or whatever. That's how we interact with her, because that's the only way we can have a conversation with her. Meanwhile, in reality, she's living in this insane asylum. And so that's what I'm describing to you now. That's what it feels like. You're faced with the fact that, oh my God, I've been living in an insane asylum all of this time because I've been tolerating this. This was a place, these two places I talked about, Black culture, religion. These were places, these were areas where I received comfort. I received what I thought was protection. These were areas where I thought I was getting fed, right? I was getting what I needed, right? It was a place where I had community, not realizing what I was really in. And once I began to realize that, as I think, and I got out of it, once I began to pull out of these things, these two spheres that I'm talking about, as I began to pull out of it, then I began to realize, oh my God, this is what I've been in. I've been in an asylum this whole time. Once that reality hits you, you go through a whole lot of feelings, emotions, and all of that. And let me just kind of go through some of the things that I personally dealt with, because it's like when that gate closes, you can't even go back. You can't go back. And so there's a part of you that wants to go back, not to go back into the delusion, but you want to go back to try to get people out of there. But you realize you can't even do that. You literally locked yourself out. And when the reality of that hits you, it's something that you feel, I was able to put a word on it this week. It's a mourning. You're basically in mourning because a good part of your life has now been killed. It's no longer part of your life anymore. You can't go back. You can't go back to that anymore. You've given up your access to the asylum and you can't go back. You're locked out. And so what you begin to experience are things like depression. I have dealt with, and off and on, I continue to deal with depression. Not depression like I'm ready to jump off a building, not that kind of thing. But I have my up days, I have my down days. When I start thinking about these things, when I start processing, oh my God, this is what happened. You mean to tell me this is what I was in? You mean to tell me when I'm listening to some people, it's like, wow, I used to say that? You mean I used to do that kind of stuff? So when you begin to listen, as you're listening to these things now, I'm listening now from a much different vantage point. Because I'm realizing now, oh my God, that's how I sounded. I was saying those same things. I was repeating that same stuff. I was making those same arguments. And you begin to start feeling that. And I'm telling you, it's not fun. It's definitely not fun. It's far from that. Some of the things that you'll begin to notice is that whoever you call friends, whatever your friends list is, it will dissolve. You will notice that you will have less and less friends. So if you're talking about this path that I'm talking about right now, separating yourself from the ignorant culture, separating yourself from what we get from religion, you're going to lose friends. Make no mistake about it. You're going to lose a lot of them. And that in of itself is too much for people. And that's why people decide to stay in the asylum. And then the next thing is, you're going to be ridiculed. You're going to be ridiculed by a lot of people, especially people that you thought were your own people. You will be severely ridiculed at various levels. It's going to happen. And even by family members as well. Another thing is your options for building or belonging to a real community will be limited. I am not saying that you're never going to be a part of anything, but your options are going to be limited. You're going to find that in this walk, there's not going to be too many people or communities, if you will, that you're going to be able to connect with. And I already talked about bouts of depression. I already mentioned that. And that's the bad stuff, okay? But I wanted to get that out of the way first because I want you to understand that this ain't some beating on my chest beating of your chest moment where you're standing on the top of a mountain and saying, ha ha, I'm better than everybody else. No, it's far from that. Most cases you feel worse. You do, but that's what it is. Now, what's the positive? Let's get to the positive, right? We ain't going to stay down there. We're going to talk about the positive. Some of the things I've experienced. First thing would be a deeper understanding of self. I'm telling you right now, I have learned more about myself just in the last few years than I've learned pretty much all my life. And a lot of that has been obtained through just me learning to be by myself and to enjoy being by myself. Now, ultimately, yes, we are, as human beings, we do need other people. That is not the message that I'm driving here. Ultimately, yes, you do need other people, which I'm going to get to that in a moment. Another thing you're going to notice is that noise will easily aggravate you. Noise will easily aggravate you. There are things right now, when I tell you I can't tolerate it, I have no stomach for it. It almost makes me sick when I see the stuff that I was showing earlier in this broadcast. I can't tolerate it. I can't. It's not funny. Things I used to laugh at. I mean, there's even things like when I see clips of Martin, for example. Now, Martin was a very funny show. I ain't going to lie. But there's certain things now when I look at things I used to laugh at, it's not funny to me anymore. Someone was pointing out, was talking about how the relationship, like I'm using Martin as an example, how he used to go off on Pam, like hard. But, when it came to his wife / girlfriend, who was light skinned, yeah, they would crack jokes on her, but not like he went off on Pam. I mean, they would go hard after each other. And, you have women who rightfully have pointed that out years later saying, that wasn't, it almost seemed like he had there was this, he never, I don't recall, and I looked it up, I don't recall him saying anything derogatory about her skin color. Okay, so I'm not saying that. So before you jump in, I'm not accusing Martin Lawrence of saying it because I don't know if he said that or not, and I'm not saying he did. However, I think everybody in the room knows that Pam, that did underline did play a part in a lot of the barbs that were coming her way. And when I look back now and I'm like, wow, I was laughing at this kind of stuff. That's not funny. And it's just when I'm listening. And so when I go back now and I'm listening to this stuff, I'm like, wow, I used to think this stuff was kind of fun. No, it's not funny. So you begin to have your tolerance begins to change when it comes to some of these things. And you begin to say, that's enough. That's enough. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. So you begin to notice that. You will begin to notice that you are getting more things accomplished. It is so much easier for me now to get things accomplished. It used to be, for whatever reason, it was so difficult for me to get things accomplished. But once I separated myself from that, and Mr. Brooks, I'm going to get to questions. So make sure you stick around. I'm going to get to you. Anybody else that has questions, I would love to answer them. Love to answer. And I'll stick around as long as I can to answer. I'm almost done here. So if you could stick around, I'll be more than happy to answer anything. I mean, pretty much anything. Like I said, I'm just laying it all out here. So I'm noticing I'm getting a lot of things accomplished. It seems like things that used to take a long time for me to get done, I'm getting done like that. It just matter of me making my mind up and like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And the next thing I know, it's done. And it's just like, wow, that's something. Another thing is easier to set goals and to reach them. That's probably one and the same. It's a lot easier. My goals seem like they are expanding. Now, I've been talking about, in one of the videos, you remember we talked about the whole history behind why this system mandated for people to write with their right hand and not your left hand. Go back to that video. If you didn't watch that video, make sure you watch that video. And we talked about how the difference between the right hemisphere of your brain and the left hemisphere. Your left hemisphere is more geared towards following order, following dictation, and, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, or whatever. And that's it, right? But the right side of your brain, now both sides spheres, they do share responsibilities, but one tends to skew one way, the other tends to skew the other way. Your right side of the brain is where you look at things big picture. You begin to see things from a much wider perspective. You get more creative and all this stuff. This is why both religion and the educational system mandated that you would write with your right hand. There was a time when the educational system, they were so adamant about this, they used to tie people's left hand to the desk so that you would not use your left hand. Instead, they wanted you to use your right hand. Now, you know, you and I both know anything that the system is promoting, that means there's some evil intent behind that. Okay. And so what I've been doing is I've been learning how to use both of my hands. I'm a right-hander, but now I'm using my left hand now. I use my left hand a lot and I use my right hand. I'm still, you know, I tend to skew right hand right now, but my left hand, I'm writing just fine now. I'm brushing my teeth just fine. I'm doing my exercises with my left hand. And what I'm noticing now is it's quite fascinating. Like now I tend to listen a lot more than I was doing before. I'm also beginning to see things. I'm doing a lot more writing than I was doing before. Like I've done a short story I'm going to be sharing. I'm trying to figure out how to share it, but it's already done, you know. I'm noticing it's just expanding now. And I'm not just saying this to say that. I'm telling you what I'm experiencing right now. So yeah, make sure you watch that video. Increase focus. You know, my focus has been a lot clearer now, you know, that I just don't give time for the BS anymore. I don't. I just see the goal and I hit it. Give me the goal. Let's get it done. And then the other one, I said, the friends you do acquire will be long riders. But they will also be people who understand change. In other words, you're going to have friends. You will get friends, people who are going to understand you and get you. And you're not going to have to use a whole lot of words, right? In communicating. But you're also going to have friends that ain't going to trip because you didn't call them last week. You know, they're going to just know, okay, I know you doing your thing. I'm doing my thing. When we get up, when we see each other, we see each other. Okay. You good? You need anything? Okay, good. You ain't got to worry. Oh Lord, I didn't call them. I wonder what they're thinking about. I wonder what they feel about me and all that. See, that's first level relationships. I don't need that anymore in my life. Okay. I don't need nobody. I don't need that extra stress. And I wonder what they thinking about because I never returned their call. You ain't got to do that. I need friends. I need the friends that I have. We need to have that nonverbal kind of communication going on where even if I don't call you back, it may be a week, it may be a month. You and I both know, okay, boom, we doing our thing or whatever. When I see you, and we're going to continue to grow together. And anytime you need something, I'm here for you. Anytime I need something, I hope you're there for me. That's how it should work. That's how real friendship should work. So in this leaving of the matrix system, if you will, and I define my matrix as, one part being black culture, the other part being religion. A lot of times these two conflate together, I should say. These are the things that I am walking out and going through and all of that. And it's not easy. It's definitely not easy, but I'm going to continue to do it because I can't go back into the insane asylum. And what we are witnessing right now is an insane asylum. When you got people who look like you every day that are literally wringing each other's neck in public view because they legitimately hate each other. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to have anything to do with that. I want to connect with people where we can connect in such a way where there's just an underlying understanding of just love, appreciation, and we got each other's back, and we ain't got to worry about anything else. You know what I'm saying? And for some of those people, they're not going to, I understand, for some people like that, they're not going to look like you. That's when you're connecting with people at a much deeper level. That's what friendships, relationships, community, that's what it's really about. When you're able to connect with people on a much deeper level. Last thing a lot of times when I listen to some of these people, white folks that pseudo historians, a lot of times they like to make fun of, ancient African culture, because ancient African culture, you will find that it wasn't a culture that was centered around writing things down. They didn't have a writing culture in it. A lot of it was passing down information from one generation to another, oral traditions, right? And people like to make fun of that. Oh, you too dumb and stupid. They were too dumb and stupid to write things down. But I would argue that oral traditions have much deeper meanings to it, and it's a much deeper way of communicating than writing things down, because it's facial expression. It's the tone of your voice or whatever. You're able to communicate things at a much deeper level and have a deeper understanding with people, when you ain't got to worry about, you ain't got to get into some big argument because you decided to write in caps one day, because people are, why are you writing in caps? Why are you yelling at me? I used to get that all the time. And I'm like, because I just wanted to make sure you saw what I was saying. I wasn't yelling, but when you're able to communicate with people on a much deeper level like that, there's just things, a lot of the mess you just bypass. And that is what's sorely needed in our society today is, when we're building these relationships, when you lead the matrix, you get a higher way of communicating with people. And then you learn how to navigate around the mess and the foolishness, because you know what? Because that kind of stuff is going to pull you back in, and you don't have anything to do with it. Okay, now on to your questions. Anybody got anything from me? I done poured myself out and given you my kind of partial life story on that. But let me just go in here and see what is being asked here. You can ask me anything, okay? I would have y'all call in, but anytime I do that, nobody wants to actually pick up the phone. That's okay. You can just put it in the chat. That's fine. Did they anchor use certain stimulus? Trying to understand that question, bro. Let me move on, because you have another question here. Maybe it'll hit me in a moment here, what you're asking. How do you lead the matrix and prosper? Well, by now, you had just left this comment while I was explaining, so hopefully you got that. So prospering is happening. Prospering is an ongoing process. And part of prospering really is you learning you. I am so valuing and learning silence and staying out of and keeping my environment peaceful. And the value of that is just really awesome. And I would encourage anybody to do that. Make sure you start your day off in silence. And when you do that, you literally, we talked about this. We did a video about this a while back. When you immerse yourself in complete silence just for 20 minutes, your brain physically grows. It does. You can look this up. And yeah, so that's one thing. Jump back to religion for a moment. There's a lot of things that we share. We talk about a lot of topics on this platform. One of the things we do touch on, we time to time we go back to religion a little bit. We talk about the history of Yah and Yahweh and some of these other things here that you can easily look up. It only takes you a few minutes to look it up. And the amount of people that I encounter that are too afraid to take 2 seconds to look things up, what that tells me is that, and this is another thing I've encountered with people, is that there is a fear. I've had people write me and ask me, okay, then who do you pray to? Who do you worship then? If you're not doing, the Christian thing anymore, if you're not doing the Hebrew thing anymore, then who are you worshiping now? What church? I remember when we first left the church, we used to encounter people. They said, well, what church are you fellowshipping at now? And there's other people too, that when they will leave a church, when they will see somebody that they used to go to church with or whatever, they say, oh, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Hey, what church you go to now? Are you going to a church or something? Kind of as if you're going to die if you're not going to a church. Oh, we're living quite fine now. We're doing great. We're doing great. No, I'm not going to church, and I don't intend to go back. And when and so, no, I'm not, and so, yes, when you decide to sever off religion, period, it doesn't mean that you're an atheist. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean all of a sudden now you become an atheist. I don't believe that. I don't believe that there is no higher power. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I think when we look at the world around us, I'm talking about the natural world, it's too complex for us to think that this all just came out of just nothingness or whatever. No, there is a higher level of intelligence that's out there. Who or what that intelligence is, I can't tell you. I don't know. I can speculate, but my speculation, I know whatever it be, it'll end up being foolish. So I don't speculate. And, it's just, so that much I do know. Some people make the decision and go in, I'm an atheist. That's not me. Okay. And that's not me at all. I'm not, someone say, well, okay, brother, good. You got out of that Christianity, man. What you need to do now is to make the next step, my brother. And you need to come back to Africa and let's start embracing our African religion. Let's start embracing that again. I'm like, nah, I'm good with that too. You can do that if that's what you want. I'm not doing that. Because the same standard or expectancy that I have with Christianity is the same expectancy I have with African faiths and religion. Because it was those African faiths and religions that kicked our asses out of Africa, and they didn't do a doggone thing for us when we were thrown on those slave ships. So no, you can keep that, keep all of that. That's what you want to have. You can do that all day. That's not me. It's just not me. That was the big uh-oh for me. I said, nah, I'm good. Now, if you want to do that, you want to embrace all of that, and that brings you something, then you do that. But that's not me. You know what I mean? So for now, I'm still in this state of cleaning out, if you will. That's probably the best way I can come up with. Because from time to time, I'm still looking at some of these videos where people are literally breaking down the historicity around the Bible, for example, when they're explaining like, man, this is really where this came from, in the Bible. They actually copied this from this text and that text. And it's just blowing my mind. So I'm still at that stage right now where I'm learning things. So it takes a moment. When you're going through mourning, it's not an on-off switch. It's a process. And it's a process. You got to be patient with yourself. I'm talking to myself now. You got to be patient in the process. It's a mourning. You are losing a great deal. But at the same time, you will be gaining, but it takes a moment, Anyway, let's go here to back to the comments here. Let's see who else. They said, how do you navigate religion? It's been sort of my life for 30 plus years. Yeah, I understand that. Hopefully I kind of understand. Hopefully I answered some of that as I was just talking there. Again, it's there are some positives that I've learned in the church, for example. There's some positive things. I mean, when you look at the Ten Commandments themselves, it ain't bad. I mean, this stuff, even though they got that from the Book of the Dead. But anyway, there are things that are positive and they're good, right? But when you look at the overall system of it, it is ultimately about control, and it is about deception too. It is. It is. And so when you have family members, for example, who are in it, they're not going to understand. They're not going to understand at first. There's some that will, but there are going to be many who are not. My advice is just simply, you continue to love them as you've always loved them. And if they can see through their religion and see that the fact that you are a different person, see, watch that. You caught that. I didn't say you're the same person. You are a different person. Because when you come out of something like that, you are transformed. You are becoming something different. But at the same time, you're going to have a love for them. You're still going to have a love for them. My love for family members or whatever, it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. But at the same time, I'm not going to engage anymore in your mess either. You understand? And so you have to make that clear too. And so it takes time, and it's a journey that ultimately everyone's going to have their own customized journey. There is no one rule book for all when you're doing this kind of journey. It isn't. You learn as you go, but at the same time, you learn from the stuff that you learned in that 30 years of experience. There's some positive things, but you also, now you got to be honest with yourself and say, all that other stuff, I can't deal with that anymore. I can't carry that anymore. And that's going to take time as you're separating. Give yourself time to process through that and be patient with yourself. That's what I would say on that. Be patient with yourself. There is no one rule book for every individual. There isn't. You're going to learn this on your own. There's going to be some heartbreak. There's going to be some disappointment. But at the same time, you have to stay true and honest with yourself. You got to stand on truth no matter what. And you can't go back to where you came from. And there's probably more I could say on that, but that would be the main thing there. Let's move on to the next question here. Add to broadcast. Let's see here. Someone said, when you pray, though, who do you pray to? Jesus, the Most High, or something else? I don't. I know that's what. Whoa! Hold on now. Now, this is just too much for me. Hold on for a second. Are you telling me you don't pray? Oh, my God. No. That's too much for me. Oh, no. Now, I'm not mocking you, sis. I'm not. Trust me when I say what I'm expressing to you is something I have dealt with. I'm walking you through my own personal experience. Okay? Because this one was an interesting one to deal with. Prayer. When you step back and you think about prayer, you know how oftentimes on this platform, I talk about, in the Bible, when it talks about you'll lay hands on the sick and they will recover and all of that. And there are plenty of examples where we see that has not worked, right? It doesn't work. That's part of prayer, And what religion has said is, well, the reason why it didn't happen is because maybe your faith wasn't strong at that moment or this, that, or whatever. Religion will allow you to give excuses for a promise. This is a promise that was given that when you do this, this is going to happen. It didn't say, okay, unless you got 75 or higher % faith, it ain't going to work. It doesn't say that. It says believe, and that's it. That's what it says. And that is my challenge to you. Hold it to the same accountability you should hold anything else to. If someone said they're going to be there at 7:00, then make sure you hold them up to that. The Bible should be no less. If the Bible says a promise that a thing is going to happen, you don't give it any excuses, period. That's not you being mean. That's you being what you need to be. You understand what I'm saying? So anyway, when it comes to prayer, when you think about prayer, prayer is basically a declaration. It's a proclamation that you're making. I am believing that, today is going to be a day that I am going to get things done, period. Or when you wake up in the morning, I am grateful for another day. I am glad that I'm alive. I'm breathing. I made it. I made it. I made it to another day. That's a declaration that you're making. You understand what I'm saying? Lends itself to prayer. Same thing. Now, am I directing that to a particular direction, to a God, to a deity? No. Am I making myself God and saying, oh, Dwayne, I just bow down and worship you? Heck no. Not doing that either. I am declaring, and that is going to lead into a whole nother conversation. When you are declaring stuff, what happens? What actually things are coming in alignment when you begin to declare things. And I'm not just talking you decree and declare that you're going to be a millionaire. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. But there's literally power in our words. Again, that's a whole nother conversation I'm not going to get into, but trust me on that, okay? It doesn't involve you holding some amulet or anything like that for the spooky and out there. I'm not doing any of that. Okay, you ain't gonna see Sabatry. We got the Sabatry amulet. You know, you got to hold on to it and rub it 3 times and you're gonna get them blessed. And nobody's saying that. Okay, not getting into any kind of like ancient practices of witchcraft and all that kind of stuff. Miss me with all of that. Okay, we ain't doing any of that. Okay, but this involves things that you have been already equipped with. This is where that whole series about that we're doing as far as the what's it called, real intelligence. We're going to get into that. When you start learning all these different functionalities of your brain, you're going to be sitting up like, oh snap, why was I never taught this stuff? There are things that your brain is designed to do to bring into reality. And it doesn't involve prayer. It doesn't involve you worshiping anything. Your brain is equipped to do these things, but religion has scared us away from this because if you dare talk about it, oh my God, you worshiping the devil. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about, nobody's saying any of that. Okay? But there are things that you have already equipped with that can really help you get things done for real. And we can talk about that. We'll get more into that in the future. Let's see. Someone said, this is a good conversation. Yeah, it is. Anybody got anything else? Any other questions from me at all? And if you do have something you're not thinking and it's not coming to mind right now, that's fine. You can put it in the chat. I'm not in the chat, in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to do my best to answer it. But the whole point of this conversation here was to kind of share with you kind of where I am with things, you know, and when you're leaving this matrix system, the cost that it comes with. And, you know, and it does come with a cost. It comes with a heavy cost. And it's something that a lot of people, unfortunately, they're too afraid of doing that because when you leave the asylum, now you don't have those systems that comfort you and bathe you and held you all the way up to this point. You don't have those systems anymore. You know? And so that's where it becomes quite something there. So she's asking another question. Where do you think you will go when you die? I have no idea. I have no idea. That is an ongoing question that I think most people still can't answer. I do think life goes on, though. This is my personal opinion. I don't think once you die, that's it. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I think we do go on. I'm going to tell you one of the things I wrestle with that I don't know, it really has wrestled me. I've been wrestling with to the point where it's consumed me and I had to like step back a little bit, is what happens to evil people. I've been wondering that for years. What actually happens to people who are evil? When you think about some of these people who have done some of the most evil and horrific things, you know, to children, to innocent people and all of that, you know, how does their story end or continue? What happens? You know, I've oftentimes wondered that. Now in church, the Bible has taught us that, yeah, you will go straight to hell. You know, and that is something that for me, for years, I mean, you're talking over 40 years plus. As I said, you're going to go to hell. They're going to go to hell. They're going to go to hell. They're going to go to hell. You know, and that's all I believe. And even when Carlton Pearson, when he came out and he was like, I don't believe that a good God would send people to hell, that kind of thing, right? I was like, oh, no, I can't deal with that. But I'm not taking the path of Carlton Pearson because Carlton Pearson, one of the things I've noticed with people who do go into, hey, I'm just not going to believe in God at all, I'm going to become an atheist. And again, this is not applicable to all atheists because when you look up, when you really begin to listen to people who consider themselves atheists, there's all flavors of them, right? There's all flavors of different people who call themselves atheists. It's become a watered down kind of thing. I don't consider myself one, but one thing I've noticed is that there are people who they will leave the church and immediately they're going into LGBT stuff. And I'm like, that still is not something I don't believe. I mean, just when I look at how nature works, it still doesn't work. I don't care what Bible or no Bible, it still doesn't work. It just doesn't. It doesn't. You're not designed, that piece ain't designed to go in that piece. If you understand what I'm saying, it ain't designed that way. Something that's going to tear your behind up, literally, it ain't, there's something off about that. You know what I mean? It's not natural. It isn't. You know, so that's how I look at it. But you had people like Carlton Pearson and others that were, they with breakneck speed start going in and waving that flag. That's not me. But when it comes to, you know, when we're talking about hell, and this is something that has been drilled deep down into our souls, that, man, if you do one thing, there's a hell waiting for you. For that, there are videos out there where people have really looked into the history. Again, it's important to understand the history surrounding the Bible. A lot of us have been trained to just read the Bible and that's it. God said it. I believe it. That settles it. Don't question anything. What I'm encouraging you to do is learn the history of the people who put this thing together. And what you're going to find are a lot of Masons. You're going to find a lot of Jews. You're going to find a lot of people, governments. You're going to find those things. And once you begin to discover this stuff, it's going to rock your world. It is. We have spent years talking about this stuff. And as I began to look at that, I was like, oh my goodness. And so when you learn about how this whole concept of hell came about, when you learn about that, and the history is why they introduced that into the Bible in the first place, I'm telling you right now, it's going to turn you upside down. It is. So, but even with that, I still sit back and wonder, okay, then if that's not provable or whatever, then what does happen to people who are evil? That I can't answer. I don't know. I don't know. My focus is to live the best life I can live and be, in sync with with other like-minded people and with nature. That's really my goal in life. And really that's it. That's what my focus is on. And that's how I'm gonna live my life. Let's see here. Herbal Harmony said, I can 100% tell you that there is no heaven or hell. I personally transitioned to the other side and chose to come back. Okay. All right. Well, that's your experience. That's your experience. And, I haven't. Okay. But that's, to each his own. I'll just leave it at that. Oh, let me take that off and skip this one. I'll come back to the other one. I've been trying to decipher and delineate on where evil people go to, or do they have a specific destination after death as well? Yeah. I mean, that's something that if you think about it long enough, it will consume you. And so I said, you know what, let me pull back because I don't know. You know what I mean? And I just leave it at that. It's a lot easier to accept someone else's narrative, something that's more definitive, and say, yep, if you do this, you're going to go to hell. If you do that, you're going to go to heaven. It's a lot easier to accept someone else's narrative than to allow yourself to discover this stuff on your own. You know what I mean? And a lot of people tend to be lazy when it comes to this stuff. So I would say, don't just run with somebody else's narrative. Instead, when it comes to things like that, for me personally, I try not to consume myself with that, because there's just all kind of things you can think of that, it could be this, could be that, could be this. I don't know. Because what's in front of me right now is probably the most pressing thing right now, not what happens on the other side. And I just kind of leave it at that. It would be a quite interesting discussion though. I'll say that. But I tend to shy away from getting into that publicly, at least, because everybody has an opinion. Like this one person said, they say, hey, I traveled to the other side. And I said, hey, that's okay. That's your experience. That's not mine, but that's your experience. I can't take that away from you, but that's your experience. And I just leave it at that. So that's why I don't really publicly get into those conversations. You know, I just kind of leave it out there or whatever. So that's me. Let's see, what's this here? My mind is blown away. Everything you talked about, me and some friends talked about this yesterday. My therapist said I'm experiencing externalism. That's quite interesting. I'm glad you got somebody you can talk to too. Yeah, and these are conversations that we need to have on a regular basis anyway. You know, I try to make myself available here on this platform because I do realize that, like I was just talking about, it's a lonely walk. It really is. When you disconnect yourself from religion, when you're disconnecting yourself from your cult, what you have called your culture, it pretty much, as a black individual, you pretty much are left with very little once you disconnect. You already fighting for crumbs, and then you disconnect yourself from that, it really leaves you with a little bit. But you begin to realize, slowly but surely, that you have a lot more than you thought. Just give it time. You'll begin to see that. And you'll begin to realize that that bondage that you've been under has been the thing that has been restricting you. It's been restricting you and keeping you thinking on a low level. You begin to realize that it's really something once you begin to step out on that. And so, like I said, it's like, oh man, like when I'm listening to people, like some of these people that leave comments, sometimes it's like, wow, some of the things these people are saying, it's just, I see what I'm talking about. I see what's happening. You know, I see the impact of trauma on people when you're trying to identify yourself with 20 different people. You know what I'm saying? I'm an Indian, I'm this or that or whatever. And that's not me. Like I said, again, I'm not trying to be funny or anything like that. Like I said, again, this image here. There are people out here that literally, this is normal. This is normal. And you're literally identifying with just about everything. But yet you're talking about you standing on business. On what business? No, it's more like business is. And they all conflict with one another. That is a sure sign of some type of mental illness. When you say that, for example, like the example I use, you got people that'll say, I'm a Hebrew, but I'm also native to this land in America, but I'm from Israel. People say this with a straight face, and I'm like, how does that even work? And then when you question them, they're like, oh man, you just don't want to believe. Bro, I'm trying to understand first, because I don't want to believe. I'm trying to understand what you're saying first. And, it's just something. But anyway, we're going to be getting more into that over on the Samba Tree. This video I'm going to do. I've done that, actually. I'll upload that probably late tonight or early tomorrow. I'll upload that, and we really get more into that stuff there. So that would be interesting if you want to watch that, okay? But I think that's it. If you guys don't have anything else from me, this is, let me see what RJ is saying here. He says, Dwayne, in my opinion, religion, I should say the belief in the supernatural is important to me. My ancestors were spiritual and had my share of supernatural experience. For instance, I heard a small voice. Okay. And again, like I said, that's your experience. And that's not, again, I let people decide if that's what you want to believe, and hold on to, then you hold on to that. It's simple as that. For me, I've never met you, RJ, but I think we kind of sort of share some of the same ancestors, some of them at least. For me, where I part ways with that is that spirituality, it didn't protect us in slavery. It didn't. It did inspire some level of hope, but it didn't protect us. It didn't stop the slave ships. It didn't stop slavery. It didn't do any of that. You know, and so that's where I have a big problem with that. But, you know, for people who do hold on to that, hey, that's you. You know, I don't lose any sleep over that. And but that's you know, to each his own. Anyway, Brother Mike said, I'm starting to see how only 144,000 will not be saying will be not saying the exact number, but with religion and AI, I can see that happening. I hope I'm understanding what you're saying, but you know, again, the whole 144,000 thing, that comes out of the Bible. And you know, you believe what you want in that, but that's not something that I personally subscribe to. But, you know, because for every person that quotes that, they have a different meaning of what the 144,000 is. This is what I'm talking about. And I'm just telling you, this is my experience. This is what I've dealt with, you know, with individuals. But yeah. And I'll just leave it at that. So yeah, if you want to add to this conversation, put it in the comments below, but I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. And I appreciate you guys hanging around, sticking around with me. And that's it. We'll keep the conversation going. We'll do another video like this in the near future. And if you would like to call in or whatever in the future, just let me know, and I'll be more than happy to open the phone line up. I ain't scared. Ain't nothing to be scared about. We're just adults having an adult conversation, and we're just trying to figure this thing out called life. And I don't see anything wrong with that at all. Okay. Well, anyway, that's it. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for tuning in this Sunday, and you guys take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Okay. Take care, and I'll see you next time.